Everyone can hear and see me. I still see spinning circles and such. So hopefully, okay, there, stop spinning. So hopefully everything is good. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our Gene Key transit for new moon Scorpio for this month, November. If you want to hear the short version of the November synopsis, we do that at the beginning of the Verve and Vision podcast, so you can check that out. Put it in the description after I've gone live, but let me copy and paste in this new feature, but it'll be there in a second. And this month, the Gene Key transit is the shadow of interference, the gift of teamwork, and the city of synarchy. This is in the gate 44 or Gene Key 44. I also talk about quantum human design from Karen Curry Parker, and that is labeled as truth in quantum human design. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about what this energy means, how we can just absorb all the goodness from this energy and be able to create a November to remember. Yeah, I just said that off the top of my head. Yeah, so hopefully all things are kosher. I do want to double check because it's the first time I'm streaming straight from Zoom. So you can chat me, and that would be a fast way for me to check. Or I'll also can just double check on the YouTube channel to make sure that it is streaming live. So as I pull that up, if you have any questions for me, please type them into the chat. Do you have something special that you're creating or launching or wanting to happen in this November? What about Thanksgiving? Are you putting on any get togethers? Because if you can create this atmosphere of teamwork within the family that we have supporting us in New Moon, then that would be lovely for whoever comes to eat at your dinner table, I am sure. So, yes, pressing a couple more buttons to see that everything is flowing the way I expected. Still not showing me anything. What about you guys? Okay, now I see it. There we go. Just needed the confirmation. Otherwise, I'd be here, have to redo the whole thing, and that's not going to work. So this energy is actually in the human design chart. So on the body graph, it's moving from the spleen to the will. It's that energy that's helping us to instinctively know who to meet, who to connect with, right? And that's the channel in human design is coming to meet meet the other side of the channel in human design. And then also it's the channel of transmission in the gene keys, which is interesting because the transmission is also how we talk about the full moon, which we'll hear later this month. The November 15th is the full moon in Taurus this month. Okay. So what do we got here in this energy of teamwork for gene keys, right? This is the energy of the fractals of creation. It is how we are growing from small to large and one entity and several entities. Fractals are something that are just part of the aspects of what it looks like to grow and evolve, right? And that's anything that goes from something smaller to something larger, okay? And because of that, and the way that all the information of our DNA is encoded in the one strand and then replicated for everything, and then split off into its individual functions, right? But it's still coming from the same DNA strand. In that same way, this is how we are building karmic ties and energetic families in our circumstances. So throughout our generations in our family, in our relationships and our dynamics with the people that we choose to be in relationship with over and over again, right? And so this is the energy that can teach you how to choose relationships that will serve, like basically carry through the long haul, right? Because we can appreciate that some relationships are meant for their short term, and what we are really looking for is that if we're investing our love and our energy and our time and everything into somebody, we hope that they're going to stick around. We hope that's for the long haul. It's just part of our desires and what we want to create, right? The longer we can create with somebody, the more we get to create, right, with that person, and bigger things get because you get to know each other and you don't have to question the small things, and things move faster the better you know each other. So these relationships and the gift of teamwork carry a sense of devotion because you realize, oh, I'm in it, I love this dynamic, even though it's not always the best dynamic. I'm willing to continue to grow with this person. And that's what we hope the most for our long-term relationships, our when we build family, when we're choosing our family, right? Or when we are understanding the family that we got when we came into the earth, right? All of those signs, you're deciding like where's our sense of devotion to being in partnership, being in relationship with that person. So the aspect of this is this ability to know when and why we're meeting each other. And so that we can stop making choices that are unhealthy, possibly meeting people that aren't allowing us to create, or questioning who we really are, or having interruptions of what's possible in our lives, right? So we want people that are actually going to help us be who we are and grow, create with us, and create so we can again create something big and beautiful and loving in aspect, right? So it takes the special person. So that the truth of this is that we can tell this by our ability to sense others, and particularly through the sense of smell. It's how it comes up in the gene keys. And that idea is essentially that there's pheromones, there's chemicals being released the same way that we are sensing vibrations through sound and light and all of these other things. We have senses that we feel through touch and through smell. And so they're considering smell a touching sense here. But I think we can kind of know that if pheromones can go a distance, so can this sense of touch as well, right? So in the shadow, in the part that is not as high vibe, it can look like being in fear of being hurt in a relationship and keeping people from, and it can keep people from finding the right relationships that are healthy and loving, right? And then on the repressive side, it looks like being distrustful. Either you learn to distrust as a child because of something that happened that was crucial, or you have a really painful relationship and you're just afraid to trust any relationship ever again. And then on the reactive side, this energy in the shadow can play out as misjudging. Basically, you keep allying with people that aren't respecting you, or they turn against you suddenly. Or in business, it can look like choosing people that drain resources and maybe are incompetent in the tasks that we are assigning them to. We're assigning them maybe even to the wrong parts of the team when they could have worked better on something else. But hopefully, you know, as somebody that is going to add to the team of the business so that everybody prospers in a better way, right? That's the point of building a team, so you can do more together, right? And so the ability here is to recognize your true allies, and the power that you can get in this gene key when you're living in the genius of the gift is that you can read others through a simple handshake. You can sense the higher possibility, the higher evolution, and the purpose. So if you have this in your chart, then you have this ability to sense yourself into a higher aspect of your purpose, right? And that's a felt sense. That's another thing I feel like I have to explain, because a lot of people think of purpose as just your actions or just goals you set or just your career. And I think of your purpose as who you be. It's what you're made up of, literally your DNA, literally how you are interacting and being within the world. And in that case, right, to be able to sense who you are being and the flow of the energy that's already in and around you, that's the power of this 44th key, right? So in that power, you'd be able to recognize who belongs in your life and recognize and people feel familiar to you, and that that's part of that understanding of that they belong. And if you take it even further, then you can actually build teams with like great dynamics that are doing the thing at the highest possibility. And you can develop total trust within the team and within a group, within your family, and you can develop total love within that family. So people with this gift have a knack for group mechanics and knowing people. They still have to work, though, on the destructive patterns of that shadow of interference, which is basically going by this a need or a fear that something's going to go wrong, so thinking somehow that you're getting around this aspect of fully feeling and knowing somebody. Um, this is how I know the only reason why this plays out very strongly for one of the people in my life. So I recognize that in just this desire for everything to go they want. And so they stop listening or paying attention to the signals that are showing that they're not being respected, or it's not a good dynamic within the group, that is causing too much interruption within the flow of like what they're creating, what they're supposed to be creating together. And so you want to pay attention to how things are actually feeling and what our senses are telling us in those relationships, and not just going by what we wish was true, right? So that is the gene key aspect. On the quantum human design side, we got the 44th key of also she does call it transmission. I must have copied this down wrong, I think. So it is transmission. The challenge here is that we get stuck in those past patterns. And on Karen Curry's Parker's perspective, this is about the the patterns of fear from the trauma of experiences. And obviously, most of those experiences involve other people. So, in some ways, it is the same aspect of what Richard Rudd is talking about. In other ways, it's talking directly about how we are being ourselves within that energy, right? So ultimately, she's talking about being able to recognize that you're in a bad past pattern, right? That's been perpetuated by a past cause, and that that pain of that trauma or whatever happened, um, that you are thinking that that's just always going to be the case. One of my favorite quotes, and I don't remember who it's from, but your past does not dictate the future, right? And so this is that understanding of that perspective. Just because we're afraid because something happened once doesn't mean that it's guaranteed or automatic to happen again. And are we limiting ourselves? That's the question here. Are we limiting ourselves by what we think will happen again when there's so much potential, and it's not likely or even sometimes not even possible to happen the same way, because a lot of those things happen when you're in childhood. And when you're a child, you have very little control over your environment and how you're respected within a situation. But when you're grown, you can come with the wisdom, and you can come with a sense of what to do next, right? And so sometimes a lot of the past ideas are stopping us from moving into our full potential because of that pain that we're afraid of experiencing again. And that's like those shadows, those hidden things that a lot of times you're not even noticing. That's why a lot of people use coaches and therapy and all that kind of thing to help, for people to help them see how they keep reflecting pain into a situation that's not necessarily there, right? So if unbalanced in quantum human design, it looks like paralysis. It looks like being stopped, not being able to move forward into new possibilities because of what has happened in the past, right? So you feel like those problems are obvious and insurmountable, and you feel like you're doomed and stuck, right, in that situation, because that's just the way it is. There's too much pain there for you to even attempt a thing, right? Or too much potential for pain, right? You only see the pain potential and not the possibility potential, right? So that's another, it's a mindset thing. And this is why people do so much shadow work, right? I highly recommend shadow work, but we can get like kind of trapped in it. And sometimes that's why I love Gene Keys, right? Because once we can recognize that we're on the shadow side of the possibility, we can see through our own blind spots, right? We can say, oh, I'm experiencing the shadow. I wonder how I can see the perspective of the gift and the possibility of that gift playing out in the same situation. And that's what's so powerful about the Gene Keys for me. So in the new moon, we are looking at three things to receive, right? So the three things that we are here receiving in this awesome place. I am looking at the chat here. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and jot them down. It will let me see them on Zoom. And I want to see that happen. I want to see that happen in real time. So if you in the YouTube live chat, just send me a message. Oh, here we go. Oh, I'm going to send you a message. Hi. Hi. All right. I can see my own message there. All right. So, three things to receive. One, your lessons from family, love, and business relationships. So, if there have been pain opportunities in the past to feel pain, then we've learned something from that. We've learned who isn't for us and why they're not for us, right? And so we're taking those lessons, we're receiving them fully, and we're going to move forward with those lessons into the new possibility, even if it's a scary territory, right? This is that moving past the what they call comfort zone. I just put out an email that was about how do we know and to move into our out of our comfort zone? Because I'm always, I like comfort. So that was the premise of the email. Like, why am I moving out of my comfort zone again? I like my comfort zone, right? So if you ever feel that way, it's a good thing to know. When do you move past, right? When you've learned that wisdom and you're realizing, oh, I'm actually kind of bored. I know this area so well. I have learned all my lessons here, and you're getting a little bored. It's getting a little meh, right? Then it's really time to move past that comfort zone. Try something new that you don't know the immediate answers to. That's what life is about. And it's going to feel energized and like you're growing. And then you can take that feedback and reapply it. And you can just play what I like call playing with those edges of the comfort zone. Okay. So, number two thing to receive, a sense of alignment. And this is a real thing, folks. Like people, I've seen a lot of mindset ideas, a lot of coursework, a lot of things about just frameworks of how we're thinking of things, and which is important. And it's not just mental. We have a body for a reason. There's pheromones for a reason, right? In the description of Gene Keys, we talked about that a little. And that reality is that you can feel the difference if we're aware and in our now moment, if we're breathing, right? That's why breath work is so important, to be present. The OMAS method is purposely meant for you to be present to the current time, and that the full power and potential of the moment is witnessed by you and available to you so that you can share that with others. And then the third thing to receive in this new moon Scorpio is the primary values of partnership. So this is about knowing who is the right partner for you and choosing based on that and not letting other ideas like, so sometimes it's social metrics, right? Like, will you look more successful with this partnership? Will you look more like more potential for love, or I don't know, but a lot of times they're making these choices by saying that it looks good to everybody else, so it must be right for me. And we in this world, on this station, on this YouTube channel, um, it's about, does it feel good? Are you feeling good about how you're connecting to that person? And is it showing up in the way that you appreciate relationships, people, and life, right? Do you get to experience the things that you value with the person you're with? whether that's in again, in that close relationships of chosen family or your real family, or the family that you were given coming into the world, whether that's relationships with love and potential partners, soul relationships, and or whether that's and then in mentorship and business as well. Like all of these are very important. You get to feel like you can be all of who you are. And that's the what you want to be able to feel like when you're with that person you think could be a partner, right? So that's what you want to feel into, not just understand, right? But actually feel and sense and smell. You know, that idea when people are like, something smells fishy, we should be able to tap into that. All right, one more set, right? So we have our sets. We talk about the energy, we see how we can apply it possibly to what's going on in our life, in our business, and then we look at the content possibilities. So I'm going to ask 3 questions that may give you some inspiration about what content to create that would be in line with this energy playing out and over the next 2 weeks. So we have some time. So here we go. We have what, number one is, what patterns do you help people be aware of to have a better future? So what patterns are those? And since I have nobody I'm talking to directly and not seeing any chat as yet, then for me, that is cycles. For me, it's cycles and events. What a lot of people don't realize is that they're feeling a downside of a cycle, and it's not actually a bad thing. Right? We are in this society where we expect continual growth constantly and all the timeness. And it's not the way energy works. It's not how creation works. And as we know, in those fractal ideas, then we come back to those iterations and it grows from the center. Now, as it evolves, sometimes in the spiral, we only see the point. It looks like it gets smaller. In reality, it's just the culmination of the cycle. It's just moving through, just like winter, we rest a little bit, we're moving to the next part of the cycle. And events, what I think of it as events is when the highest growth period is happening, the climax of the story, the performance of the culmination of the story as well. So uh like I was a singer, I was, and I can still am, an opera performance singer. And so a lot of those times you are leading up to is mostly practice, it's mostly preparation, right? And then you get to try it out a few times and tech week and dress rehearsal and Sitzprobe and opera. And so you have some at bats, but every at bat, even the practice at bats, at some point we have to treat them as if there's the real event. And then you have the actual event where the people are there, they're seeing the thing that you created for the first time, and you can't redo it. That's it. And that's what a lot of people are afraid of when it comes to showing up, being visible on their social media, showing their face, this kind of thing. And that event is bigger for some people than it is for others. Some people do it naturally. They've either performed a lot and they kind of know how that rolls, or they are people that just they have gotten a lot of praise for that and what they do. And that can come starting in family, right? If somebody ever told you that you try to perform something and they were like, don't quit your day job, and you bought that line, right? Then you can feel some trauma around doing that again. So that's what I try to help people with. The number 2 question about your content. So this is a question for you. And if you are here, tell me what your idea is. Put it in the chat. Tell me where to find you. That's why we're here. We're here to share our business and our communities and our content, right? So number 2 is, what is the sensed quality that you give people that helps them get results? So again, people feel a certain way when you're in the room. Your friends love you because of a feeling you give, right? And that's A good friend is just that natural feeling. It's not something that you're putting effort into. It's just who you are makes them feel good, right? And that's how we kind of know our good relationships again. So not just any friend, like a good friend who you feel comfortable being yourself around. What is that sensed quality? What is it? What is it? I believe for me, it's safe space that they can be themselves freely. And that even if I don't agree with everything that they are or being or what they're saying, that I will completely accept them in the anyways, right? I have this kind of very motherish love where it's just like, oh, that's my baby. And they're special and different sometimes, but I love them anyways, right? And so what is that sense that you give other people? Yeah, for me, it's just kind of that deep space and loving hug that they can fully show up as themselves. And number three, what is the third piece? Let me see if anybody responded to that one. Yes, I'm interested in what your content would say about what your sense quality is. Number three, what role do you play on their team? So this is your potential clients, customers, to help them achieve results. So what's the role you play on the team of the teamwork? Okay. So it takes a team. I think people forget this, and a lot of our really strong leaders are like, I am the only thing you need to be successful and da 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 da. And the truth is, it's not, that doesn't quite work that way. Even though there's a head coach on the football team, they also have the trainer and they have the defensive coach and they have the offensive coach and they have all of these different coaches that it's there. Like if they didn't have all those pieces of how they need to do the work that they're there to do on the team, that their ability would not show up at the same level, their performance would not show up at the same level. So what, you're not just one member of the team. I mean, you're not just one, the only mentor, leadership coach on their team. What is the role that you play on the team that they will need to do everything they want to do in their life, right? For me, that is being a performance coach. And I'm not a performance coach for elite athletes, right? I'm a performance coach for people who are wanting to create and show up for what they're creating, right? And whether that looks like art, whether that looks like a business, whether that looks like service. And even I have wonderful people who do ceremony for their clients. And so, whether that looks like holding circles and healing space, helping people to take care of themselves while they're taking care of others through a process, right? Of knowing what their cycles look like and how to support themselves through that cycle. So, what is your role? What is your role, right? So, I help people show up and be their full selves so they can have their full impact. What is your role, right? Trying to like give you variables so that you can have your own explanation of that for yourself. So there's so many different roles on the team, right? There is the lead systems strategist. There is the person that's going to be your I'm like cracking the whip, but like your accountability coach is like, okay, you said you're going to have the biggest November ever. What are you doing to make that happen? There's more people that are more that kind of person on the team, or support members of the team, right? So you could be helping people get all that admin done or all that behind the scenes work done so they can just focus on showing up as the leader, as the guide, as the face of the company, however that looks for you guys. So that's what we have for our November 1st new moon in Scorpio. Hope you have had an amazing Halloween and that you aren't stressing out too much about the election. Remember, we only get our vote, and then we get to lean back on our close team, right? Instead of focusing on the outside teams that aren't, I wish they were doing more, but that office isn't even that important. Y'all, I wish y'all would vote, but I wish y'all would vote more and think about more about your local community representatives. What are you asking of them? What are you expecting of them? Because those are the people that are influencing your neighborhood, your household. And they just make this big show out of people that are mostly figureheads. And yes, while it's important, and the whole aspect, it's not going to be the end all be all. And if we start requiring more at home, it will trickle up. It will trickle up. We can turn this thing around by paying more attention to the things that matter. And that's the day to day and our now present space of home, community, neighborhood. Okay. So sending so much love, hoping that we have good news on the other side in my next slide.